All right, let's dive into one of the most confusing and honestly frustrating parts of the internet, Reddit's unwritten rules. If you've ever tried to build an account there for, anything, you've probably met the ghost that haunts every new user, that mysterious, out-of-nowhere ban. So today, we're going to try to figure out how to actually survive.
It's a total nightmare, right? You create a new account, you're all set to jump into a conversation, and then poof, you're shadow banned, invisible. It feels like you did something wrong, but you have no idea what. Well, the reason is usually Reddit's own automated systems. They're on a constant hunt for bots and spammers, and your brand new account just looks suspicious. So how do you prove you're a real person? Well, it turns out there are two completely different schools of thought on how to do it.
So, first up is what we're going to call the rulebook. This is this really structured, almost scientific method that's all about building a history that looks authentic to Reddit's algorithms. The whole idea is to treat your new account like it's a delicate little plant that you have to water carefully over its first week. I mean, look at this. The level of detail is kind of wild. Day one, you do literally nothing but browse. Then, day by day, you slowly add another layer of activity. A few comments here, a profile picture there. It's all about creating this slow, steady, predictable pattern of engagement. The whole theory is that this gradual ramp-up is the exact opposite of what a spam bot would do, right? A bot would just jump in and start blasting links from minute one. This is the antidote to that.
Okay, but what if you're not starting from scratch? What if you, say, buy an account that already has some history? Well, this same logic still applies. You can't just take it over and start going wild. You still have to do a warm-up to make that transition look natural, and that has its own very specific set of steps.
The big word here is acclimatation. First, you got to check that it has some recent, real-looking activity. Now, if the account was last used in a totally different country, you have to spend a few days just browsing. The idea is to make it look like the user just moved. You mimic normal behavior, saving a few posts, watching some videos, and only then do you start commenting, again, very slowly. It's all about making the account's story plausible.
So why all this complicated scheduling? I mean, what's the system that this method is even trying to game? Well, the people who believe in this strategy say it all comes down to one secret hidden metric, the Contributor Quality Score, or CQS. This is supposedly Reddit's own internal reputation system for figuring out if you're a good faith user or a problem waiting to happen.
So think of CQS less like a popularity contest that's based on upvotes and more like a behavioral analysis, a vibe check, basically. It's looking at the pattern of what you do. Are you a real, engaged member of a community, or are you just here to drop a link and leave? According to this whole theory, a high CQS makes you trustworthy in the eyes of the algorithm, while a low one puts you on the fast track to getting banned.
And this philosophy has some really specific rules. First, comments are everything. They're valued way more than posts because, real interaction is harder for a bot to fake. An account with a viral post but zero comments, that looks super suspicious. And here's a weird one. Giving out upvotes doesn't actually help your own score. In fact, if you do it too much, you can look automated. The big takeaway here is a daily, 15-minute routine focused on making thoughtful comments.
Okay, so we've got this super detailed 7-day rulebook. It seems logical, right? It makes a certain kind of sense. Well, get ready, because we are about to throw a massive wrench into this whole thing. There's another group of really experienced Reddit users who say this entire complicated process is not only a waste of time, but it's completely wrong. Their philosophy is way simpler. Just act like a human.
And boom, there it is, a direct shot at everything we've just laid out. The argument from this side is that the whole warm-up idea is fundamentally flawed because it totally misunderstands how real people actually join and start using Reddit.
I mean, just ask yourself this question. It's the core of the whole counter-argument. Of course not. A real person doesn't have a 7-day spreadsheet for their new account. They don't count their comments or schedule their profile picture for day 3. They just use the site. The argument here is that by trying to follow a rigid, artificial plan, you actually end up looking less human, not more.
And we've all lived this scenario, right? You Google a question about a video game, or a recipe, or some tech problem you're having. The top result is a Reddit thread. You want to ask a follow-up question, so you create an account and you post a comment, all within about 5 minutes. This is an incredibly common, totally natural user behavior that happens thousands of times a day.
So, the Act Human strategy completely flips the script. It says, forget the waiting period, start commenting right away, but do it smart. Steer clear of the huge default subreddits like r/news when the spam filters are on high alert. Instead, go find a smaller, niche community about a hobby you have and make a genuine comment.
Here, the focus shifts from an arbitrary timeline to the technical fundamentals, like having a clean IP address and, writing your own comments like a person.
So this leaves us with two completely opposite views. On one side, you have this rigid, almost paranoid system based on a secret score. And on the other, you have a flexible, common-sense approach that's all about mimicking spontaneous human behavior. So which one is actually right?
When you look at them side by side like this, the differences are just stark. The rulebook demands a slow, structured waiting game that's focused on this invisible metric. The human approach says to jump right in with natural engagement. One starts broad and general, the other starts small and super specific. They really could not be more different.
And yet, here's the craziest part. Hidden inside this huge debate, there is one powerful point where they meet. A single golden rule that both the meticulous rule followers and the common sense crowd agree is the absolute #1 key to success on Reddit.
This is it. Comments are more important than posts. Both philosophies, for all their disagreements, come to the exact same conclusion. The foundation of a healthy, trusted Reddit account is built by genuinely interacting in the comment threads. Dropping a bunch of links is the fastest way to get flagged, but engaging in conversations, that's the fastest way to prove you're human.
So here's your final strategy, your checklist. No matter which path you choose, make authentic comments your top priority. Act like a real member of whatever community you're in, and for goodness sake, always read the subreddit's rules. From there, you just have to decide what fits your style, the structured safety of the 7-day plan or the flexible common sense speed of the act human approach.
And really, that's what it all boils down to. Is the best way to not look like a robot, to follow a rigid robotic schedule, or is it to embrace the messy, spontaneous, and immediate behavior that makes us human? The real answer is probably somewhere in the middle, and figuring that out is the key. Thanks for tuning in.